A greedy father forced his daughter to marry an old man, but she disappeared overnight, leaving behind a letter of death and a secret that would change a prince's life forever. Long ago, in a beautiful and prosperous kingdom called Greenland, there lived a very wealthy merchant in the capital city named Richard. Despite his immense riches, his life was not filled with happiness. His wife had passed away many years ago, leaving him alone with his only daughter, Elizabeth. Elizabeth was known throughout the kingdom for her intelligence and extraordinary beauty. Her black, thick hair shimmers like moonlight, and her gentle nature made her beloved by everyone who met her. As Elizabeth grew older, her father began to think about her marriage. However, his thoughts were not guided by love or concern for her happiness, but by greed. He decided to marry her to a very rich man who was twice her age, believing that this alliance would bring him even greater wealth and luxury. When Elizabeth heard about this decision, she was deeply upset. Gathering her courage, she went to his father and respectfully refused. "Father, I cannot marry that man," she said firmly. "I will never accept such a life. He is much older than me, and I never met him. How can I marry someone I never met before?" Listening to Elizabeth, her father got angry. Her father's heart had grown cold and hardened by greed. He paid no attention to her feelings. Richard decided that she might run away, so he locked her inside the house so that she could not escape or resist his decision. Elizabeth locked in her room, sad and crying all day, only to hope that his father might change his decision. Days passed in sorrow and silence. Alone in her room, Elizabeth spent her time thinking of a way to free herself from this imprisonment. One evening, sitting in her balcony, she saw a candlelight in the corner, and an idea came into her mind. Then she came up with a clever and daring plan. The next day, when her father came to bring her food, she spoke calmly, hiding her true intentions. "Father, I do not wish to go against you," she said softly. "I will agree to marry the man you have chosen, but only if you fulfill one of my wishes." Hearing this, the merchant couldn't believe his ears and was overjoyed. His face lit up with excitement. "Yes, my daughter, I will grant you anything you ask. Just tell me your wish," he said eagerly. Elizabeth replied, "Father, I want 500 gold coins to have a special wooden candlestick made, one that can hold 40 candles. I want this as my dowry." Although surprised by this unusual request, the merchant did not question her because he was happy that he will become more rich. He immediately called a skilled craftsman and ordered him to create the candlestick. The other day, when the craftsman arrived, Elizabeth went to the craftsman and secretly spoke to him in private. She requested that he build a hidden space inside the candlestick, large enough for her to hide in, along with a small concealed door that she could open and close from the inside. She made him promise never to reveal this secret to her father. Looking at the bag full of coins, the craftsman agreed to her. After several days of careful work, the craftsman completed the candlestick. It was large, beautifully carved, and looked like a magnificent decorative piece. It was exactly as Elizabeth had imagined. When the candle case is completed, she thanked the craftsman and he went away. After looking the case from inside out, she quietly opened the hidden compartment and placed enough food and water inside to last for a week. The following day, her father came to her again and reminded her of her promise. With tears in her eyes that her father loved her greed more than her own daughter, Elizabeth lowered her gaze and appeared to accept her fate. As soon as her father left the house, Elizabeth saw her father going outside through her balcony to see the old man to tell him about the marriage. She quickly wrote a letter.
In it, she stated that she had chosen death over marrying the old man, and that she was going to end her life by jumping into the river. She placed the letter on the table where it would be easily seen. Then, without wasting a moment, Elizabeth hid herself inside the candlestick and closed the secret door carefully. She can see and hear things from inside out. That evening, when the merchant returned home, he went straight to Elizabeth's room, but she was nowhere to be found. As he was about to leave, his eyes fell upon the letter lying on the table. With trembling hands, he opened it and read its contents. As soon as he realized what it said, he was overcome with shock and grief. He began to cry loudly. "Oh, what have I done?" he cried. "I am the cause of my own daughter's death." Filled with regret, he blamed himself for forcing her into such despair. Days turned into a week, and his sorrow did not fade. One day, while sitting in her room, his eyes fell upon the beautiful candlestick. Seeing it reminded him of Elizabeth, and his grief grew even deeper. Unable to bear the pain, he decided to sell the candlestick. He took it back to the craftsman and asked him to sell it for whatever price he could get. The craftsman placed it in his shop, where its beauty quickly caught attention. That very day, a young prince named Andrew came to the market. As he walked through the shop, his eyes fell upon the magnificent candlestick. He was immediately fascinated by its design and elegance. Without hesitation, he went straight to the shop owner and wished to buy the candlestick. The owner demanded him the price. The price was big, but Andrew was a prince, so it was easy for him to buy such things. Andrew paid the full price and ordered his servants to take it carefully to the palace. Arriving at the palace, he instructed them to place it in his private chamber. They placed it in a corner of the room where it can be seen easily, and made his room look more elegant and beautiful. Days passed, and soon strange things began to happen. Andrew noticed that his food, which was served in gold and silver plates, seemed to be partially eaten. Sometimes a piece of bread would be missing, sometimes fruit, and sometimes even an entire glass of juice would be empty. At first, he suspected the servants, but when he questioned them, they firmly denied any involvement, insisting that no one would dare touch the prince's food for fear of punishment or even death. Confused and curious, Andrew decided to uncover the truth himself, that who dared to do such things in his palace with his own food? One night, an idea struck him. He decided to pretend to sleep, hoping to uncover the truth. He lay down on his bed and slowly closed his eyes, waiting for something to happen. At midnight, when he heard a soft sound, slowly he opened his eyes. To his astonishment, a small hidden door in the candlestick was opening. Andrew got frozen. From inside, a very beautiful girl stepped out. It was Elizabeth coming out of the candle case. She looked around carefully and, believing the prince to be asleep, quietly walked toward the table. She began to eat the food quickly. After finishing, she was about to go back inside the candlestick.
At that very moment, Andrew suddenly rose from his bed and caught her hand. His grip was so sudden and firm that Elizabeth, startled and terrified, let out a scream and fainted. Concerned, Andrew gently carried her to his bed and sprinkled water on her face. He waited anxiously for her to wake, his mind racing with questions. Who was she? Why was she hiding inside the candlestick? Where had she come from? After a few moments, she slowly regained consciousness. When she opened her eyes, she looked at him with fear, thinking he might punish her. She began to cry. Andrew looked at her for a few seconds, then spoke gently.
"Who are you? Are you a spirit, a fairy, or a human girl?" With tears in her eyes, Elizabeth replied, "I am just a girl, trapped in great trouble." She then told him her entire story, from her father's greed to her imprisonment and daring escape, and the unwanted marriage forced upon her. Andrew listened carefully. He was deeply moved by her courage and suffering. In his heart he began to admire her and allowed her to remain hidden inside the candlestick. From that night onward, Elizabeth continued to stay hidden in the candlestick. Every night, when the palace fell silent, she would come out, and she and Andrew would talk for hours. Slowly, their bond grew stronger. What began as sympathy soon blossomed into deep affection. They found comfort in each other's company, staying awake through the night, lost in endless conversations. However, their secret did not remain hidden forever. One night, a maid working late in the palace corridor accidentally heard voices. Curious, she bent down and looked through the keyhole of the prince's door. To her shock, she saw a young girl sitting beside Prince Andrew, both of them talking joyfully. Shocked, the maid rushed to Princess Elena and told her about the mysterious young girl. Princess Elena, Andrew's cousin, had always dreamed of marrying him. She was known throughout the palace for her rude nature, unkind heart, and deep jealousy. When Elena heard this, she was filled with anger. She ordered the maid to keep a close watch on the prince's chamber and discover where the girl came from and where she disappeared during the day. The next day, after carefully observing, the maid returned and revealed the truth. During the day, the girl hid inside the candlestick through a secret door, and each evening she came out to eat and speak with the prince. Hearing this, Elena was shocked that such a thing could exist, but her anger only grew stronger. Burning with jealousy, she devised a cruel plan. The next day, Prince Andrew left the city on important business. Seizing the opportunity, Princess Elena went to the Queen and requested permission to host a tea party. She asked to borrow the beautiful candlestick from the prince's chamber for one night, claiming it would make her room look more elegant. But the Queen firmly refused, remembering her son's strict warning that no one should enter his chamber or touch anything inside, especially the candlestick. Though anger burned within her, Elena did not give up. She later approached the king with the same request. This time, luck favored her. The king agreed and ordered the servants to move the candlestick into her chamber for one day. Then she ordered the maid to bring 40 candles and lit them all at once. The heat inside the candlestick is hot and slowly became unbearable. Unable to endure it, Elizabeth was forced to come out. Weak and exhausted, she tried to escape, but collapsed before she could go far. Elena was shocked to see her, but she laughed at her looking like this. Thinking that she was dead, the princess ordered the soldiers to throw her into the river without anyone knowing, because she was soon to marry the prince and become the queen. The soldier obeyed her. But fate was kind. As Elizabeth fell into the water, she regained consciousness and began to struggle. Just as she was about to lose hope, an old man passed by. He was a fisherman who came to the river every day to catch fish. Seeing her, he quickly jumped into the water, saved her life, and brought her safely to his home. At home, the old man asked, "Why did you jump into the river if you cannot swim?" He then gently asked about her family, saying that if she told him, he would take her back to them safely. Elizabeth looked at him, her heart heavy with sorrow. She thought about how her father loved wealth more than her, and how the people in the palace wanted her dead. So she told the old man that she had no one in the world. The kind old man felt pity for her and accepted her as his daughter, as he too had no family in this world. Meanwhile, when Andrew returned to the palace from his journey and discovered that Elizabeth was gone, he was heartbroken. He had no way to find her. No one had ever seen her, and who would believe that a girl had been living inside a candlestick? Overwhelmed with sadness, he fell into deep despair. He refused to eat or drink, and slowly his health began to decline. Worried for his son, the king announced that anyone who could bring food that the prince would eat would be greatly rewarded. The people loved their prince, so they prepared all kinds of dishes and flavors, hoping it would be an honor if he accepted their food. Elizabeth also heard this news. She prepared a special fish soup using herbs her mother had once taught her about. She remembered how, during her nights in the palace, she had mentioned this secret recipe to Andrew while they talked. The soup carried a magical fragrance that could heal sadness. The fisherman took the soup to the palace. When the prince saw it, he noticed that it was slightly disturbed, as if it had already been tasted. Confused, he leaned closer. As soon as Andrew smelled it, something stirred within him. Without hesitation, he drank it and felt strength returning to his body. Realizing there was something special about the soup, he asked who had prepared it and why it seemed to have been tasted. Deep down, the prince already had a feeling, but he wanted to be certain, so he questioned the old man. The fisherman told him about Elizabeth. Soon Elizabeth was brought to the palace. When they saw each other again, their joy was beyond words. Overwhelmed with emotion, the prince asked her why she had left without telling him. Elizabeth then revealed the entire truth. The king, who was present, listened carefully. Upon hearing everything, he immediately broke Andrew's engagement with Princess Elena. She cried and begged for forgiveness, but it was too late. The king was overjoyed that his son had found true love. He agreed to their marriage, and a few days later, Andrew and Elizabeth were wed in a grand celebration. Elizabeth's father was informed that her daughter was still alive and now married to a prince. Filled with regret and shame, he came forward and asked for forgiveness. Elizabeth and Andrew, with kind hearts, forgave him and welcomed him with open arms. And from that day on, they lived happily ever after in the Golden Kingdom. Greed can destroy even the closest relationships, but courage, patience, and a pure heart can change fate and bring true happiness.